Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to fifth chapter of our story. Tonight, we continue with other page of a story that will stretch across many nights. A story of Chichen Itza, where stone temples whisper secrets and life moves in rhythms long forgotten. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what hour of the night keeps you company. It's always magical to know that these words travel across oceans and time zones. If you like the stories, please let us know in the comments which story you would like to hear next. If you are ready, soften the lights, let the world around you fade away, and allow yourself to wander into history's gentle embrace. We leave behind the great ball court. The echoes fade, the air softens, and once again the sound of the jungle presses in, cicadas buzzing, leaves whispering, distant bird calls rising like flutes above the trees. Ahead, another structure rises, its outline sharp against the sky, the Temple of the Warriors. It is not as tall as El Castillo, the Great Pyramid of Kukulkan, but is vast in its own right, a broad stairway leading upward, rows upon rows of carved columns stretching out like an army turned to stone. As you draw nearer, you feel the scale, dozens upon dozens of pillars, each etched with figures. Warriors, their faces stern, their bodies armored with feathers, spears in their hands, shields across their chests. They stand frozen in endless ranks, guardians of the temple above. These columns were not meant to stand alone. Once, they held aloft wooden beams, forming vast porticos and halls. The temple would have seemed alive with shadow and light, its roof painted, its pillars colored, the warriors seeming to march endlessly toward the heart of the sacred precinct. Today, the roofs are gone, the beams rotted away long ago, but the stone warriors remain, a silent army awaiting command. Climb the steps, slowly, carefully. The stones are steep, uneven, worn by centuries of wind and rain, by the countless feet of pilgrims who came before. At the top, a platform spreads, and at its center sits a figure both strange and arresting, a shakmul. The shakmul lies reclined, its body turned at an angle, its head facing sideways, its arms cradling a bowl carved into its stomach. Its face is expressionless, its form stiff yet purposeful. This was no idol sculpture. It was an altar of offering. Into that bowl priests placed gifts for the gods: flowers, incense, cacao, pulque, and at times, blood or hearts cut fresh from sacrifice. The shakmul is not human, not entirely. It is a messenger, a bridge, a figure both reclining and alert. To the Maya, and later the Toltec, it symbolized the link between earth and the divine, the receiver of offerings destined for higher powers. Here, in the Temple of the Warriors, it is both centerpiece and silent witness. But look closer at the carvings around you. The warriors, though disciplined, are not the only figures that appear. Snakes twist across the stone. Feathered bodies coil. Serpent heads rise, their jaws open, their fangs bared. Some emerge from the mouths of warriors. Others curl around pillars, their scales once painted in bright reds, greens, and blues. These are not ordinary snakes. They are the feathered serpents, the manifestation of Kukulkan, the Maya vision of Quetzalcoatl, the god of wind, of wisdom, of cycles, of the very breath of life. To the people of Chichen Itza, the serpent was not simply a creature of the jungle floor, but a cosmic being, a bridge between earth and sky. The feathers marked its heavenly aspect, its ability to soar. The scales marked its earthly power, its rootedness in the soil and the underworld. Together, the feathered serpent was the axis of the world, the unifier of opposites. The warriors and the serpent intertwine in meaning. The warriors symbolize order, discipline, the might of Chichen Itza. The serpent symbolizes the divine, the cycles of time, the endless motion of creation and destruction. Together, they tell a story that the city is guarded not only by human strength, but by cosmic power. The army of stone is under the protection of Kukulkan himself. Imagine for a moment the rituals here. Priests in feathered headdresses ascending the stairs. warriors standing in solemn ranks. The shakmul awaiting offerings. The air thick with copal incense, smoke curling upward, blurring the boundary between earth and sky. Drums beat, shells call, voices chant in low, rhythmic tones. And above it all, the temple itself, alive with carvings, with color, with meaning. The Temple of the Warriors was not simply a building. It was theater, sanctuary, fortress, and stage. From here, look out across the city. The temple gives you a vantage point. To the north, the Great Ball Court. To the west, the sacred cenote. To the south and east, more plazas, more columns, more temples. The city stretches outward, organized yet sprawling, stone amid jungle, geometry amid wildness. This is no accidental arrangement. Each building is placed with purpose, aligned with stars, with solstices, with equinoxes. Chichen Itza is not simply a city of stone, but a map of the cosmos laid out on earth. The Temple of the Warriors is one node in that web. Its message clear. Power flows from both human armies and divine serpents, from both discipline and mystery. The serpent itself, Kukulkan, dominates not only the Temple of the Warriors, but also the greatest pyramid nearby, El Castillo. Twice a year, during the equinoxes, shadows fall across its northern staircase in such a way that a serpent of light and shadow appears, slithering down the steps to meet the stone serpent head carved at the base. It is a spectacle of cosmic alignment, a fusion of architecture, astronomy, and faith. Here, in the Temple of the Warriors, the serpent is no less present, though subtler, woven into columns, carved into walls, embodied in offerings. Wherever you turn, its presence whispers, life and death, earth and sky, chaos and order, all bound together in the coils of Kukulkan. And what of the warriors themselves? Who were they? Some were likely real, elite soldiers of Chichen Itza, members of orders such as the Jaguar and Eagle warriors, their lives devoted to battle and ritual. They carried atlatls, spears, shields, dressed in feathers, jaguar skins, bird costumes. They fought not only to defend the city, but to capture prisoners for sacrifice, for offerings to the gods. To be a warrior was to stand between chaos and order, to keep the city aligned with cosmic balance. Others may be idealized, mythic, ancestors, demigods, archetypes carved into stone to embody eternal guardianship. The columns blur the line between memory and myth, between human and divine. Together, they form an eternal army, standing in ranks that never break, defending the temple, the city, the world itself. And so, as we walk among these columns, as we climb the stairs, as we stand beside the shakmul, we feel again that layering of meaning so characteristic of Chichen Itza. Nothing here is simple. A column is not merely a column. It is a warrior. A snake is not merely a snake. It is a god. A reclining figure is not merely sculpture. It is a messenger between realms. The Temple of the Warriors tells us this. Power is not only physical, but spiritual. Armies of stone and armies of flesh are guided by the serpent of the cosmos. To rule, one must not only wield weapons, but align with the cycles of time, with the breath of Kukulkan, with the endless interplay of life and death. Here, history and myth intertwine. Here, warriors and serpents share the same stage. Here, Chichen Itza declares itself not only a city of humans, but a city of the cosmos. The Temple of the Warriors does not reveal its secrets all at once. From a distance, it appears as another pyramid rising above the flat stone plazas of Chichen Itza. But as you walk closer, the temple begins to unfold like a story. One detail, then another still. The stairs rise, steep and commanding, their edges sharp though worn by centuries of use. On either side of the staircase, serpent heads glare outward, their fangs carved in stone, their eyes wide and unblinking. Even in ruin, they seem alive, as though any moment they might shudder, breathe, and strike. At the base of the stairs stand, rows of pillars stretching outward in all directions. At first glance, they seem uniform, gray stone, evenly spaced like the remains of a colonnade long since stripped of its roof. But step closer, and you begin to see. Each column is carved with figures. Warriors. The carvings are faint, worn by rain and centuries of exposure, but still they speak. Some show men with elaborate feathered headdresses. Others bear shields marked with intricate patterns. Some wield spears or the atlotl, a spear thrower that gave their weapons greater force. Each warrior is depicted as strong, upright, unwavering. Together, they form an army in eternal formation. Walk among them, and you sense their silent company. Row upon row of stone guardians flank you, watching, listening. They are not men of flesh, yet they embody both memory and myth. Perhaps portraits of real warriors who once fought for Chichen Itza, or perhaps idealized images meant to inspire, to intimidate, to declare that this city stood under the eternal protection of a martial order. The sound of the jungle presses close, but here, among the stone army, another sound rises in the imagination. The rhythmic beat of drums, the blare of conch shells, the shuffle of sandaled feet on stone. For once, this was not a ruin. It was a temple alive with color, with music, with ritual. The pillars were painted, perhaps in reds and blues, the warriors' figures standing out vividly. Roofs shaded the halls, banners fluttered in the wind, incense curled upward in pale, sweet smoke. Now ascend the stairs. Slowly. The climb itself is part of the experience, part of the design. Each step lifts you higher above the plaza, away from the mundane, closer to the divine. The stairs are steep, not built for haste, but for reverence. You imagine the priests ascending with measured pace, bearing offerings in their arms, each footfall deliberate, each breath a prayer. At the summit, the platform spreads, and at its heart lies a figure that both startles and fascinates, the shackmul. The shackmul lies on its back, knees bent, torso raised, head turned to one side. Its expression is blank, almost serene. In its lap rests a bowl, carved from the same stone, waiting, always waiting. Here, offerings were placed. Some simple, flowers, maize, cacao, pulque. Some precious, jade, obsidian, gold. And at times, offerings more terrible, the lifeblood of sacrifice. The bowl of the shackmul was a vessel of passage, a place where the gifts of earth were delivered to the gods. To stand before the shackmul is to feel both awe and unease. It is not lifelike, not human, and yet its posture suggests purpose. It does not rest. It serves. It lies in eternal readiness, a messenger between worlds. But the temple does not belong only to warriors or to priests. Everywhere you look, serpents appear. The stone coils across the pillars, carved in relief. Heads with wide mouths and sharp fangs stare outward. Some serpents emerge from the mouths of warriors, as though spirit and serpent are joined. Others twist along stairways, their bodies forming balustrades, their heads resting at the base. These serpents are not jungle snakes. They are Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, god of wind, of time, of knowledge. To the people of Chichen Itza, Kukulkan was not simply an animal. He was a force, a cycle, a bridge. His feathers marked him as celestial, belonging to the sky. His scales marked him as terrestrial, belonging to earth. In his body, heaven and earth were bound together. Imagine, for a moment, the rituals that might have taken place here. The plaza below filled with people. Merchants, farmers, artisans, pilgrims, all gathered to witness. The air thick with the smell of burning copal incense, its smoke rising in pale streams. The sound of drums beating in slow, steady rhythm. The high call of conch shells echoing across the stone. From the palace complex, warriors march in procession, their bodies painted, their costumes rich with feathers and jaguar skins. Some carry spears, others banners. They move in measured steps, their sandals slapping against the stone. Then the priests appear, robed in white, in red, in black, each color marking different rituals. One carries a sacred bundle, another a torch, another a bowl of maize or cacao. At their center, they bear an offering, perhaps a basket of flowers, perhaps something more grim. The procession climbs the steps. Slowly, the drums continue, the shells call, the people below chant. Higher and higher they rise, each step deliberate, until they reach the summit where the shackmole awaits. The offering is placed upon its stomach. Incense is poured, flowers scattered, liquid poured, perhaps chocolate, perhaps blood. The air grows heavy with smoke and scent. Words are spoken, prayers chanted. The gods are invoked, Kukulkan is called. For the people below, the sight is both reassurance and necessity. This is how the world remains in balance. This is how rains come, how maize grows, how time continues its cycle. The warriors defend, the priests mediate, the gods receive. The Temple of the Warriors is not only about ritual, it is also about power. The army of stone carved into the columns sends a message. Chichen Itza is strong, disciplined, protected. The serpents send another. Chichen Itza is aligned with cosmic forces, guided by Kukulkan himself. Together, they declare that the city is unassailable. Its warriors fight with earthly might, its priests command divine favor. Who could oppose such a union? But beyond the political and the sacred lies another layer, the mythic. The serpent is not only Kukulkan the god, it is also a symbol of cycles, of time, of seasons, of death and rebirth. The serpent sheds its skin, and in doing so, it is renewed. The people of Chichen Itza lived by cycles, the planting and harvesting of maize, the movement of stars, the turning of seasons, the rise and fall of rulers. To them, the serpent embodied this eternal rhythm. And so, to walk among the columns of the Temple of the Warriors is to walk not only among soldiers, but among symbols of time itself. The warriors represent the order of society, the serpent the order of the cosmos. Together, they tell a story. That Chichen Itza is not merely a city, but a place where human and divine, order and chaos, earth and sky are bound in harmony. The warriors of Chichen Itza were not born warriors. They became them. Picture a boy, no more than 12 or 13, his skin painted with symbols, his hair tied back tightly, standing among elders in the half-shadow of a jungle clearing. The air is heavy with smoke from burning copal resin. The drums beat slowly, like the sound of a giant heart. His chest rises and falls fast, nervous. He is trained for years, running barefoot through the forest, climbing temple stairs until his legs burned, learning to throw the atlatl with precision, to strike with the obsidian-tipped spear. He has listened to the stories of the ancestors, tales of warriors who became stars in the heavens, jaguars in the night. And now, the day has come for his initiation. The elders circle him. One presses red paint upon his forehead. Another places in his hand a weapon, not of stone but of wood, symbol of potential of what will be. The priest chants, invoking the gods of war, of the hunt, of maize, for all are bound together. Then, the boy is sent running into the forest. There, he must prove himself. He must track, he must endure, he must return with a sign of his worth. Perhaps he carries back a captured bird, perhaps a branch of sable leaves, perhaps only the mud of the jungle upon his skin. What matters is not the object, but the act, that he has faced the unknown alone and returned. When he emerges, the people cheer. He is now not only a boy, he is a warrior, a protector, a part of the army both in flesh and in stone, his likeness destined perhaps one day to be carved into a pillar of the Temple of the Warriors. But to be a warrior of Chichen Itza meant more than strength. It meant living within a story larger than oneself. A story that reached back to the beginning of time and forward to the cycles yet to come. And at the center of that story coiled the great feathered serpent, Kukulkan. Imagine the myth as it might have been told by firelight, long after the drums had fallen silent. In the beginning, there was sky, and there was earth, but they were separate, distant, unable to touch. The sky watched, longing for the earth. The earth waited, longing for the sky, but between them was emptiness. Then, from the void, came Kukulkan. His body was a serpent, long and sinuous, winding between realms. But upon his serpent's back grew feathers, bright and iridescent, shimmering with all the colors of the Quetzal bird. With his feathers he touched the heavens. With his scales he touched the ground. He became the bridge. The sky and the earth could now meet through him. The rains could fall, the maize could grow, the sun could rise and set, the stars could circle. All cycles were born from his movement, all balance from his body. And each year, as the sun struck the pyramid at the equinox, his shadow descended in light and stone, crawling down the steps of the great temple. To see him was to know the world still lived, still turned, still endured. To the warriors of Chichen Itza, Kukulkan was not just a god. He was the pattern of their lives. Their victories were his coils. Their losses were his shedding skin. To die in battle was not an end, but a renewal, like the serpent reborn. Now, let us leave myth and return to life, to the daily world of a warrior in Chichen Itza. Dawn breaks over the jungle. The cries of parrots and toucans echo through the trees. Mist clings to the plaza stones, turning the temples into floating islands in a sea of white. A young warrior rises. His bed is a mat, his room simple, but the air around him is alive with purpose. He steps outside, the ground cool beneath his feet. He breathes in the damp air, the scent of earth and smoke, of maize and ash. First, he trains. On the plaza, he runs with others, their feet striking the stone in unison. They lift their spears. They hurl them with atlatls, the obsidian tips glinting. They practice with shields, wood against wood, blow against blow. Sweat pours down their bodies, steam rising in the morning light. Later, he eats maize tortillas, beans, perhaps a bit of cacao if he is fortunate. He sits with comrades, laughing, speaking of hunts, of family, of dreams. Yet beneath the laughter lies solemnity. Each man knows he is not only himself. He is part of the city, part of its defense, part of its story. When the sun is high, he walks among the temples. He sees the serpents carved into stone. He touches them, feels the roughness beneath his fingers, the permanence. He whispers a prayer. May Kukulkan grant him strength. May his life have meaning. At night, he gathers with the others in the plaza. The stars blaze overhead, sharp and countless, brighter than in any modern sky. They look up and see not only stars but ancestors. Each warrior who has fallen is not gone. He is a light above, a guide, a presence. To live and to die as a warrior is to become part of the heavens. And so the temple of the warriors stands not only as stone, not only as ruin, but as a living memory. Its pillars speak of discipline. Its serpents whisper of cycles. Its shakmal waits for offerings. And above it all, invisible yet eternal, coils Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, binding sky and earth, binding past and present, binding the people of Chichen Itza to the great rhythm of existence. Night falls. The jungle hums. Insects sing. The occasional howl of a monkey echoes. And the air is thick with the perfume of damp earth and flowers that only open beneath the stars. The warriors gather by torchlight. Shadows flicker across the carved pillars of the temple. Each pillar seems alive, the etched figures moving in the dancing light. Warriors in headdresses, in armor of woven cotton and feathers, frozen in stone, but shifting with the fire. A story begins. The elders speak of a battle, long ago. A neighboring city challenged Chichen Itza, sending warriors across the jungle paths, seeking to test the might of the feathered serpents chosen. The people prepared, not with haste, but with ceremony. For war, like planting maize, was part of the great cycle. It was not only blood, it was balance. The warriors painted their bodies, blue, red, black, each color a prayer. Blue for the rain god, to wash away fear. Red for the sun, to grant courage. Black for the night, to bring stealth. Feathers crown their heads. The bright green of the quetzal, the yellow of parrots, the crimson of macaws. They were no longer only men. They were transformations, bridges between human and divine. When they marched into battle, they did not march as individuals. They marched as jaguars, as eagles, as embodiments of the forces that shaped the world. To face them was to face not one enemy, but the jungle itself, the stars themselves. The battle came at dawn. Mist rose from the earth. The two armies clashed with a sound like thunder. Spears flew, obsidian blades struck, shields clattered. Shouts echoed through the trees. Yet within the chaos, there was rhythm. Every strike, every movement mirrored the patterns of the heavens, the cycles of the serpent. And when the dust settled, Chichen Itza stood victorious, not because of numbers, not because of chance, but because they believed they were aligned with Kukulkan, with the stars, with the balance of life and death. Their warriors were not merely fighters. They were living symbols. That is why animals mattered so deeply. To call a man jaguar warrior was not metaphor. It was transformation. The jaguar, silent hunter of the jungle, eyes glowing in the dark, body strong and fluid. To take on the spirit of the jaguar was to claim night as an ally, to embody stealth and strength. Jaguar warriors painted their skins with spots, wore pelts upon their shoulders, roared before battle to strike fear into their foes. The eagle, lord of the sky, sharp-eyed, fierce, descending upon prey with sudden force. To become an eagle warrior was to command the heavens, to see further than others, to strike from above. Eagle warriors wore feathered capes, beaked helmets, their movements sharp and swift. Each warrior carried within him an animal soul, a nawal, a spirit twin. And when they fought, it was not only men who clashed, but jaguars and eagles, serpents and deer, sky and earth. But war was not constant. Most days, the warriors did not fight. They lived, they trained, they worshipped, they celebrated. Picture a festival at the temple of the warriors. The plaza fills with people. Women bring offerings of maize and cacao. Children run, laughing, their eyes wide at the sight of dancers in feathered headdresses. Musicians play drums, flutes, conch shells, their sounds echoing off stone walls, blending with the calls of birds above. The warriors march in procession, painted and proud, carrying banners woven with sacred patterns. They climb the steps of the temple, slow, deliberate, their every movement heavy with meaning. At the summit, the priests await, chanting, scattering incense, their voices rising in rhythm with the drums. At the center lies the shakmal. Upon its stone belly, offerings are placed. Fruits, flowers, jade, obsidian blades, and sometimes, in the most sacred of times, blood. Not as cruelty, but as reciprocity. For to the Maya, to give was to keep balance, to feed the gods as the gods fed them. And all the while, the serpent lingers. On the carvings, on the stairs, in the memory of equinox days, when light itself weaves the shadow of Kukulkan, crawling down the pyramid. The serpent is always present, always watching, always waiting. The warriors live not only in stone, they live in stars. Look above, into the endless night sky over Chichen Itza. There, the constellations shimmer. To modern eyes, they are patterns of imagination. But to the Maya, they were calendars, guides, maps of destiny. The warriors knew their place among the stars. Some constellations marked the seasons of maize. Others foretold times of rain. And still others reminded them of their ancestors. For when a warrior fell, he was not gone. His spirit joined the heavens, a flame in the sky. The night glittered not with distant suns, but with souls, a celestial army, eternal, watching over those still below. To fight, then, was never pointless. It was a step in the cycle. To die was never the end. It was transformation, a serpent shedding skin, a warrior becoming light. And so, the Temple of the Warriors, standing even now, is not only architecture. It is a stage upon which countless stories played, of boys becoming men, of men becoming symbols, of battles won and lost, of festivals of color and sound, of myths that blurred into reality. When you walk among its pillars, you do not walk among ruins. You walk among echoes. You walk among warriors who once stood, painted and proud, their eyes reflecting torchlight, their hearts beating in rhythm with drums, their lives aligned with the great serpent Kukulkan. And even in silence, if you listen, you may still hear them. The shuffle of feet on stone, the cry of the jaguar, the beat of the drum, the whisper of feathers in the wind. The temple remembers. The serpent remembers. The story lives.